I stepped outside my driveway and froze. The HOA president was shouting, pointing at my truck like she owned the street. A tow truck was hooking it up, and neighbors had already gathered, whispering. Little did she know, this wasn't just any truck. As I slowly unbuttoned my jacket to reveal my badge, the crowd gasped. She had no idea whose truck she was touching until I stepped out. Real justice moments like this remind us that truth always finds its way to light. Drop your city or country in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you stand for truth over power, hit that like and subscribe. I had always loved the quiet mornings in my neighborhood. The sun was just peeking over the rooftops, and the streets were calm, almost peaceful. My old department truck sat in my driveway, gleaming under the morning light. To me, it was just another vehicle, one I'd trusted for years, carrying memories of service and long nights on patrol. But to the HOA president, it was a problem. Karen had been circling my house for weeks, clipboard in hand, muttering complaints about the eyesore in the driveway. She claimed it violated neighborhood standards, made the street look dangerous, and allegedly disturbed the peace. I had explained countless times, the truck was fully registered, insured, and legally parked. I had even reminded her that I was a retired county sheriff, but she barely blinked at my words. Neighbors had begun whispering too. Some shook their heads at the petty obsession, others watched silently, sensing a storm brewing. Karen, however, was determined. She thrived on control, on authority she thought she wielded over the community. Every letter, every phone call, every angry glance seemed to escalate her obsession. And that morning, I knew things were about to go from frustrating to ridiculous. A tow truck had arrived at my street. Karen was already standing in front of it, waving her papers, her voice louder than ever. The tension was palpable, a crowd had started gathering. I walked toward the scene slowly, feeling the calm before the storm. Little did she know, she was about to make the biggest mistake of her HOA career. Karen wasn't about to let this slide quietly. She waved her papers with exaggerated authority, barking at the tow truck driver, "Just hook it up. It's in violation of the HOA rules." The driver hesitated, glancing at me, clearly confused. "Ma'am, I just follow the orders," he mumbled, unsure why a seemingly ordinary vehicle was now a target for removal. I stayed calm, taking a few steps closer, letting the tension build. "That's enough," I said evenly. "That truck is legally registered and belongs to me. You cannot tow it." Karen scoffed, her eyes narrowing. "We have rules here, and rules must be enforced," she snapped. But Karen had gone too far before. She had sent multiple violation letters, threatening fines and penalties. She had called emergency HOA meetings behind my back, trying to rally the board to her side. Now, standing in front of the truck, she thought she had the upper hand. Neighbors whispered, some shaking their heads, others pulling out their phones to record. Karen's determination was growing, but so was the absurdity of the situation. Every time she spoke, her voice carried the tension like a warning bell. I could feel the entire street holding its breath. I didn't move hastily. I didn't shout. I simply reached for my jacket pocket, feeling the familiar weight of my badge inside. Karen had no idea she was about to confront a retired county sheriff. And in a few moments, everything she thought she controlled was about to unravel. I stepped closer, keeping my movements calm but deliberate. Karen didn't notice the subtle shift in the air, the crowd leaning in, the tow truck driver pausing, and most importantly, the badge barely visible under my jacket. "You need to stop this right now," I said evenly, my voice carrying just enough authority. "That truck belongs to the sheriff's department. You are about to interfere with law enforcement property." Karen laughed, an edge of arrogance in her tone. "I don't care whose truck it is. HOA rules are rules." She waved her papers at the driver, signaling him to continue. The tow truck driver hesitated, uncertainty flashing across his face. "Ma'am, I'm not sure." "Step back," I said calmly, reaching to unbutton my jacket. The shiny badge caught the sunlight, reflecting it in a way that made Karen freeze mid-step. The crowd gasped. Phones recorded every second. Karen's smile faltered. Her voice wavered slightly as she said, I don't. You don't get to tow this truck. Not today. Not ever, I interrupted. This isn't about HOA rules anymore. This is about interfering with law enforcement, and that's a serious offense. Her face went pale. The realization hit her like a brick wall. The power she thought she had, the control she believed she commanded, evaporated instantly. She stammered, I didn't know. At that moment, the tow driver slowly backed away, muttering into his radio. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars rolled up the street. Officers stepped out, surveying the scene. Karen's hands shook, and she realized the severity of her actions. What had started as a petty HOA battle had escalated into public humiliation. The neighborhood watched, some in disbelief, others secretly cheering. The truck remained untouched, a silent testament to truth and authority standing tall. The tow truck driver's radio crackled, confirm registration for County Sheriff's Department vehicle. Copy? A tense few seconds passed. Then came the voice of authority, confirmed. Do not proceed. Vehicle is law enforcement property. Karen's eyes widened in disbelief. Her orders, her rules, all meaningless in the face of truth. She stumbled back, papers slipping from her hands onto the pavement. The crowd leaned in, whispering and recording every detail. Within moments, 2 patrol cars rolled in. Officers stepped out, badges gleaming, eyes sharp. Karen tried to regain composure, attempting to explain herself. I was just enforcing HOA rules. One officer shook his head slowly. Ma'am, interfering with law enforcement property is a serious offense. You could be fined or face other consequences. Karen's face drained of color, and she suddenly realized the magnitude of her mistake. Neighbors who had doubted me or whispered about the HOA's power now watched in awe. Cameras captured every reaction, every flinch, every gasp. The tension that had gripped the street moments before now turned into silent validation. Justice had been served. I stepped forward calmly, letting the badge shine in the morning sun. Rules exist for communities, yes, I said evenly, but no rule allows someone to overstep the law. Karen's arrogance had crumbled, leaving only a mixture of shock, embarrassment, and the bitter taste of being wrong. As the officers advised her on the proper procedure and the consequences, the crowd began to murmur their approval. Some neighbors quietly whispered, finally, someone stood up. Others nodded, impressed that one person could turn a ridiculous HOA escalation into a clear lesson in accountability. Karen was forced to issue a public apology to the neighborhood, her face still flushed from humiliation. The HOA board quietly noted her misstep, understanding that crossing someone with authority could have serious repercussions. The county fined the HOA for overstepping its boundaries and interfering with law enforcement property, a powerful reminder that rules have limits. Neighbors approached me with quiet nods and whispered congratulations. Some admitted they had doubted my calm demeanor, expecting confrontation to escalate further. Others were visibly relieved, grateful that a voice of reason had prevailed against petty power. The street felt lighter, almost like a weight had been lifted. I returned to my truck, inspecting it briefly, appreciating the quiet hum of its engine. What had started as a simple HOA dispute had become a lesson in accountability, restraint, and courage. It was proof that authority is earned and respect is commanded, not demanded. For the crowd, the lesson was clear: power without wisdom is dangerous, and overconfidence often leads to its own downfall. For me, the story was a reminder that standing firm and staying calm can transform a seemingly hopeless situation into a moment of undeniable justice. In every neighborhood, there's someone who thinks power means control. But true authority is earned, not demanded. And when truth stands tall, even the strongest arrogance crumbles. Remember, courage and patience are stronger than rules written on paper. Justice doesn't need a title, it only needs the brave to enforce it.